Let not my cold words here accuse my zeal. 'Tis not the trial of a woman's war. The bitter clamour of two eager tongues can arbitrate this cause betwixt us twain. The blood is hot, that must be cooled for this. Yet can I not of such tame patience boast as to be hushed, and not at all to say? First, the fair reverence of your highness curbs me from giving reins and spurs to my free speech, which else would post, until it had returned to these terms of treason doubled down his throat, setting aside his high blood's royalty, and letting me no kinsman to my liege. I do defy him, and I spit at him, call him a slanderous coward and a villain, which to maintain I would allow him odds and meet him were I tied to run afoot, even to the frozen ridges of the Alps, or any other place inhabitable where Englishman durst set his foot. Meantime, let this defend my loyalty. By all my hopes, most falsely doth he lie. Hello, welcome to the channel. Brian Jennings is your host, right? Referred to as many things. The Millennial Dragon, right? The Psychic Scientist. This channel exists for a particular reason. As a method for me to process my relationship with Quentin Tarantino. I wrote him a series of letters in the summer of 2023 about playing the lead in the movie Critic, right? Which set into motion a sequence of events that led to him canceling the film and led to where we are now. Right? The two of us are now embroiled in the most palpably potent, clairvoyant connection ever in the history of mankind. I've written a novel of my experiences, and we've read through the novel, and it ends, right, with the casting of a magic spell. And I saw one comment, guy said, "Oh, you gotta drop this occult something or other," right? And I don't fault him for that. I never wanted to play this game. This is the game, that's the point. Right? I never wanted to play this game. Right? Tribeca, can't stress this enough. Right? Tribeca, that's my fault. He set me up per his standards, right? He directs people with his mind. Right? Now I could say something about that being ridiculous. I could say something about that being juvenile and adolescent at this stage of his career, elder statesman of cinema. Right? But in any event, right, he set me up per his standards, and I played the magic game too, right back at him. Right? Something in me compelled me to write a letter. Right? So when he canceled the film, I wrote a letter immediately, and it was refused at the door. And he played his bullshit psychic remote viewing games on me every night for 7 fucking weeks. Right? And that's not including, right, all the time between when I started writing my letters to the time he canceled the film. Right? So he dug around in my head, watched me, right? All that time. A week before Tribeca, I wrote him a letter, refused at the door. Right? And so when I went to Tribeca, right? And this is me being arrogant. Like, I get that. I understand, like, why he was upset and was like, no, right? No second chances, right? That was, Then when I went there, I said, oh, now it's different, right? Something compelled me to write a letter the day before, right? And so if I was just eager, if I was nothing but eager to please Quentin, I wouldn't have even had a letter. I would have said, I got a question about cinema speculation. And then it would have set into motion a series of events that would have led to me being announced as the movie critic, right? That he saw it as an initiation, right? And so, in any event, what actually occurred is that I had a letter inside of his book, Cinema Speculation, right? And so, I asked him to sign it. I opened the book. There was the letter right there. Looked him, boom, dead in the eye, right? Shoved the letter all the way up to his face, right? And he stuck his nose up at me and turned his back on me. So, I turned my back and left. Right? Telepathy's bullshit. Right? What he does in the privacy of his own home, it's got nothing to do with me. Right? But now it does. And so in my heart, I was like, no, now it's different. Now he's gonna, right? In his mind, right? He tells people, oh, everything I said was in relation to him. That's not enough. And what I'm saying is, no, it wasn't enough. My mind. Right? You show me an act of sincerity. You show me a gesture of genuine brotherhood. No occult subtle bullshit. We've done that enough. Right? So, right? When I didn't give him what he wanted, this is my point, right? When I didn't give him what he wanted, right? Despite my feeling so guilty, I felt really bad because, I had a lot of love for him. I'd like to think that I still do, on some level. I reached out and I said, I'm sorry. The first letter was like full of bile, more or less. And there was validity in it. It wasn't, right? It wasn't for nothing, right? I said, it's bullshit that we're still doing this, right? It's not enough that I came all the way there. You expect me to bark like a dog? And again, it's his movie, right? It's his movie. That's, right? And that's where the guilt came in after just a couple of days, right? I thought, I hurt him. I felt really bad. I did, and so I said, "Oh, I'm going to build you a planter. I'll make it right. Like you keep my scene for free." I sent him a scene. It's a badass scene, best scene anyone's ever sent him, 100%. Right? About a writer. It's a movie about a writer. Right? And so he entered into a covenant with the people around him. Right? However many people, I thought it was 3 other people. Maybe it's just one other fine-ass witch. Right? But in any event, right, they entered into a covenant to compel me to blow my brains out so that he could have my scene for free and cast me off as a sick, magical sacrifice to the movies. Right? And that's another one of my points. Right? That this thing that he's playing at, right? That's an emergency frequency. There's no such thing as an emergency movie. Right? You had ample time to reach out to me. Right? You had 2 different opportunities from me to accept my letter and reply. Right? You had the chance to look me in the eye and say, what'd you think of the book? Got any questions? Right? So, right, the campaign went on for months, right? Told me he has a daughter. Of course, his daughter's a little girl, right? And he's now involved her and put a bunch of psychic baggage all over her psyche, right? And so that's the novel. That's what the novel we just read. We've read all the way through it. You can go to the playlist, Building a Coven, right? That's the name of the book, and it's very good. And so, what I'll say before I get going here, in terms of what I'm going to talk about in this video, is that I feel something in the air. It seems like in the last day that something's changed as far as, right, my letter to the Pope. I feel like everyone around him is saying, no, this is, right, these are the most disgusting allegations that anyone can lay claim to. And if there's any part of it that's true, then you're a sick, disgusting, evil man, right? Because that's it. Nothing else to consider there, right? My point being that we'll have to reconcile, or we'll just both be miserable, right? I live in constant fear, right? He has plagued my mind with so much evil, right? Visions of black-clad assassins at this house, right? Really, really nasty. The nastiest things that anyone can be subjected to, right? And I can do all the same things too. This isn't, right? But I submit that he's a fucking coward. And if I put that evil on him, he will send people to murder me. Right? He's at his breaking point psychologically. We all are. Anyone that's involved. Right? That this is, right, that our connection, it's done forever. Beyond space and time, boom, me and him right there. And I've made sure that everyone in his life knows, right, that every time that you look at him and he smiles at you and says, hey, how's it going? Nice to see you. Right? You should immediately consider, what is he doing to Brian right now? Right? So, right, the real takeaway, right, is that Quentin Tarantino's not cool. Right? And I stole all his secrets too. Right? He stole all of mine, and I put them on paper and said, yes, you're powerful, these are my shortcomings. And he ran my name through the mud all over town. Right? That godless Babylon, the city of dihedral angles. I don't give a fuck. Right? It's a reflection on him to take my trust. Right? And my trust, like a good parent, did beget of him a falsehood. And it's contrary as great as my trust was, which had indeed no limit, a confidence sins bound. Right? And so what Prospero is talking about is the same thing that occurred with me and Quentin, right? That I trusted him, right, for months, right? I told him the whole time, it's not special what you do, right? There's no mystery here. That you're telling me things, and I believe you because I trust you, right? And so when I turned it all on him at the new year, right, and that's how the novel ends, right? There's the board, right? Celestial Vision Board. That's R. Emmanuel right there, right? Right? That he told me almost immediately, within days, that he has no daughter, right? And he does, but she's little. She's a sweet little girl, I'm sure. And the things that he claimed, right? And it's funny to them, right? It was funny then. Is it still funny now? I don't know. I don't know. If they're sick, if they're actually like sick in their mind, and I suspect that they are. That they got something out of it. They got something out of traumatizing me all that time. Right? Attacking me, right? Using their minds, right? When it got really bad, right? And I'll say that this is my point, is that I think my letter to the Pope has pissed off enough people around him, right, that they've reined him in, right? But what I'll say about it, like, this is a testament to his depravity, right? Okay, so we're playing the mind game, right? All of life is structured in a particular way. I've said it 1,000 times on this channel, right? That it's a twofold manifold, which are two halves of the same coin, right? The first half, embedded within every cubic centimeter of space, is an infinite fractal hologram of nested polyhedra, right? And these are the this is the subatomic structuring of all of manifested life, right? And diffused within that, right, is an abstract intellectual quality or principle referred to as deity or God, right? So God knows how to express and manifest anything within the manifested creation at any time, in any place, right? And so this is touching on Pribram and Bohm's holographic model, right? This is not New Age, right? This is established physics, right? That there's embedded within every cubic centimeter of space, in terms of information, lies the potential for all manifested reality, right? And so the celestial zephyr, right, the divine light of deity, right, exerts its knowing upon the structural manifold as pressure upon it, right? And the specific angle or angles, angel or angels, the dihedral, right, the degrees of love, right, engenders the collapse into a particular structural arrangement which causes electric resistance, right, as a result of space collapsing in on itself, its friction grating against itself. And as it continues to collapse, the friction becomes so great that it can no longer remain inert space and erupts into incandescence as crepuscular matter, first photons of light, chemical elements, atmospheric strata, mineral, vegetable, animal, man, right? So, all instances of clairvoyance, right? What does this have to do with Quentin Tarantino? All instances of clairvoyance and psychic phenomenon is the mind of the adept, right? I prithee do not mock me, fellow student, right? Exerting a psychic pressure, right? Pushing a thought force out of their awareness, right? To a disparate locale, just like God, right? And so the highest levels of that see nuns healing the sick, devout, pious, holy people putting their hands over sick people and curing their diseases, right? And far easier, right? Far more sinister, right? Right? You can use your mind to push intention, to attempt to push diseases into people and poison their magnetic body, right? And so this is what he's done to me 1,000 times over. He'll always deny it. Of course, you know, what's he? Yeah, I'm a sick sorcerer. Fuck that guy. Like, no, he's, right? But he's a degenerate. He's depraved and really wicked, right? And my point is that when it got really bad, right, that when it was at its worst, right, I got to where I was reciting his son's name constantly, right? That this is, right, that the magic has to be combated, right? And so what do I mean? Like, what exactly am I talking about? That Quentin has his fetish, right? He has, right, his needles, right? And he's using his mind to send out attacks of intention, right? And so what I'm saying, right, is that while he's doing that in his temple to Baphomet, right, we're in psychic communion constantly, right, and he hears me reciting his son's name. I almost said my son, but there you go. That's how close we are, you know. When he hears this, my point is that if any of his mind in those hideous malignancies of malevolence, right, is diverted from me to his boy, he poisons his son. That's how that works. Not perhaps, like, no, definitively. That's how that works. Right? And so, right, he's so concerned with being fucking evil to me, right, that he risks destroying his beautiful family, right? And of course, his immortal soul is gone, 100%, right? He has to devote all of his life to good works and like give away all of his wealth. That's the level that we're at now, right? And so in his mind, right, in his right pathology, right, perhaps he's saying, oh, I'll forgive him, and then I'll be good. Right? So, if you recall, I was discussing, right, and I hope that he is seeing how ugly it all is, right? If we come together, right, if there's reconciliation, right, and he sanctions my novel, right, all he's going to say is, wow, man, like, what a cool guy, like, I hated you, but, like, your imagination's wild, dude, like, yeah, like, we're good, right, because these are the games that he plays, right, his wife is so beautiful. Every time I see a picture of her, I'm like, wow, just swing. Right? My point is that he could be focused on her. Right? And hopefully he is. He has 2 beautiful children. He has all the money in the world. There's one actor whose mind he can't control. Right? And I'm a high magus. I'm not a fucking actor. Right? I just know how to act. Right? I could sit here and talk about Stanislavski. Right? I could talk about breathing. But that's boring. Right? Larry David said it best. You either know how to act or you don't. Right? But anyone who's interested in acting, if you're interested in classical theater, right, there's a great nonprofit in New York, Soho Shakes. The teacher's name is Jesse Friedman. He does 4-week scene study intensives. Right? And he's a wonderful teacher. He taught me more in those 2 times that I did that class than the New York Performing Arts Academy did in 6 months. As far as breathing and, right? All of the other innovations that have come by way of just reading the text and considering them. And so I always start with Shakespeare, right? I usually recite some music, but if you recall, right, while I was discussing my novel, I said that there's 2 more essays. There's 3 essays at the beginning of the book, right? On magic, on time, on number. And the 2 that are left is on geometry and on language, right? And so, as far as on language is concerned, right, Ezekiel's wheel right here is another one right behind me, right? That I'm interested in the 3 primary languages. I know that Quentin went through a phase how long ago where he believed me anti-Semitic, that he thought that I was like appropriating this holy alphabet, the alphabet, right? But it's mentioned in the novel. I've always been interested in language, and true, I should be focusing on Greek now too, in that way. But we're putting that aside for now because that's a lifetime of study in and of itself, right? The last thing that I'll say before I get into on geometry, right, is that Quentin, right, is obviously the most powerful psychic clairvoyant in show business. The only true one, I would say. Right? And so I see him as a mystic and a prophet as espoused by Socrates in his trial apology. Right? So Socrates says, oh, this oracle, she said that I was like the wisest man alive, so I need to go talk to everybody and who says that they're wise and figure out what she means and show her someone, oh yes, see, you said that I was the wisest, but here is a person who's wiser than I am. Right? And when he gets to the poets, right, he says that they are like mystics and seers, they offer up their rhapsody of words without any inclination as to where they come from. They can't explain it, right? That it's a channeling, right? And so these are the primary distinctions between Quentin and myself, right? That he's spent, his lifetime devoted to practicing, right? I've spent my lifetime devoted to knowing, right? Never had to practice until now. Right? Which again, can't stress this enough, right? It was only to see what the truth is, right? I didn't start remote viewing because I want to. It's a psychic violation, right? So, on geometry, that's what we're doing now. If you recall, I said I was going through this book, Spherical Models, and I made the first 2. I made an effort. I don't know that I did too well. These are the triangles. These are the triangular diagrams, right? This is for the octahedron, right? And this is for the hexahedron, the cube, right? So octahedron, cube, right? And so I'll show you. The first one didn't really come together. And I'm taking it apart. I'm going to try again. This is... right, so that's right, kind of ugly, right? It's fine, like it's all there, but it just didn't come together completely because I connected them improperly. And then the other one is the cube. One second. Sorry, I pulled a muscle. Ugh. Ooh. Okay. Here's the other one. Right? And so it's hard to tell, but that's a cube. Let's see. Let me see. It's hard to see the squares, right? And so I'll talk about why I had difficulty in just a second. But oh, there it is. That's a square, right? It's a little wonky, but right. And so there's 6 of them, and of course it also makes both of them, that they each make both of them because they're duals of each other, right? And so we're going through the book, right? See, there's an octahedron triangular face. All right, we're putting all of the diagrams together. No cheating, right? All compass, right? And it's very time consuming, right? And so the reason that I struggled is because the author, his name is Magnus Weiniger. This is a classic book, right? This is like, there's a bunch of fucking people that know this book. Maybe they're older now, but anyone who's interested in geometry, architecture, and design, right, they know this book. That Weiniger gives you a trick to save time. He says, oh, you can staple a couple of sheets together, and then when you do one, right, and you cut it out, I cut out 5. I have 5 pieces of poster board, right? And so that's why it's ugly, right? That's why, and really it's, it's beautiful of a kind, for sure. It's quite graceful. This right here, I like that. An octagon emerged out of the middle because there's 8 triangles for each square face. And so if they don't lock together properly, right? So up next is the icosahedron and the dodecahedron. What I'm gonna do with these, I might print these out one more time. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a piece of 8.5 by 11 and glue both of these onto it, and then just copy it, and then cut those out. I think that's better, and that's something that John Michel discusses in How the World Is Made, which is another wonderful book that we're gonna go through for sure before it's all said and done. But the weekend was hard. It hasn't been good. Right? Quentin is as evil as he wants to be. Right? That he's just a jerk. That he has everything. Like, I chose my side. Right? And I know this is because of my scene. Right? That he said, oh, this guy doesn't want to, like, oh no, I'm gonna overwhelm his mind. Right? And then I'll get his scene for free. And I don't have to talk to him. And he's just continued to escalate. Right? To the point that I had to write the Pope, to the point that I've written everyone that's around him and said, just so that, like, we're all on the same page here, right? Because, right, if you recall, I've discussed this, right? He's getting a Lifetime Achievement Award, the Vanguard, with the Burbank International Film Festival. When Quentin was doing his retrospective at Cannes earlier this summer, right, he had people making my life miserable so that he could stand up on stage and not be encumbered, right, by the savage psychic authority I wield, right? So now it behooves me to talk about it. It behooves me to bring everyone into the conversation, right? Number one, because I have ethics, right? I know exactly what to do, right? And if he's not a complete fucking pussy, then this is the game that he's signed up for, right? But no. That's like, there's the line in the sand, right? On the other side of that, your soul is tarnished. You're trash spiritually. So, right? And number two, right? It's just a mess. It's just a mess. Right? My point being, right, that he's doing a career retrospective with the Hollywood Reporter Scott Feinberg, September the 28th. Right? And if we have not reconciled by then, I have no choice but to assume that he's going to pay people, right, to remote view me and scream at me and, use me as a voodoo doll pincushion. Really sick, evil shit. Right? Right? That he was like kind of evil adjacent, right, with the daughter and all that bullshit. That's right. And then, right, when he admitted to me he doesn't have a daughter, and it became clear, like, oh, oh, you just want me to die. He didn't do all of this for me to like be doing what I'm doing right now. Right? And then I had the thought. And that's, right? He stole my wisdom to make me miserable because he knew that it terrified me. And it does. Right? And so when his evil got really palpable, right? Right? And it's all there on the video, plea to the Pope. Right? I said, no, we're good. You take everything down. Right? No money required. Like, I'm taking it all down. Right? And then he said, oh, I want you to sue. Right? And so I took a job sorting trash. Right? And when the suit didn't go as fast as he would like, right? He has $300 million. Right? We got paid $12 an hour. Right? But I wrote out the check, $495, right? And it kept coming back because I'm not a fucking lawyer. And I kept updating the paperwork. And after the third time, right? Between maybe 3 days after I put that in the mail, right? He was so aggressively evil with hypodermic needles, right? That it really depressed me, right? When I thought about it, right? Because I got high on cocaine, right? When I think about, right, him trying to give me AIDS, and I'd like to hope I don't have it. I'm a little scared to get tested, But, right, after that, I said, no, we're going to talk about it. We're done. I get it. No suit, right? I'm done working jobs, right? He was only being mean because he knew that I had obligations, that they said, oh, you stand here and sort this trash, right? Or he's just a complete fucking degenerate, right? And so the other side of the argument, right, is that I'm insane, right? But this is the ticket, right? The copy of Cinema Speculation is just under my phone now, right, with his autograph, right? He played his game, and I played mine. And so he stuck his nose up at me, and so I burned him. That's my right. Right? And so if he was cool, right? If he was cool, and this was just about a movie, right? He would have reached out. His agency, William Morris Endeavor, would have reached out and said, here's a non-disclosure agreement. Here's $1 million. Here's $2 million, up to $5 million. Right? You don't want to play? You opt out? You go play Hamlet in Honolulu. Right? Your LA privileges are revoked. And that would have been perfectly reasonable. What could I say? It's his fucking movie. Right? But now, right? So Tribeca, right? That's my fault. Right? I accept that. Right? I was a coward on some level. Yeah. My rage is immaculate. He loves it. I don't. I see it as the worst part of me. But he wanted me to go, oh! Right? And bark my way onto the stage. Right? Had not done that enough. Right? But this isn't about the movie. Right? This is about power. This is about control. Right? And he sees now, right, that all he can do is be evil. Right? So, I like to end with music. I'll sing a song. I really appreciate everyone being engaged with the channel as much or as little as you are. I don't know what to play. I had a better pick somewhere. I'm going to try to play this instrumental piece that is really good. Right? It's
It's surely one of the finest pieces of music I've ever written. But it's hard to play on this guitar. It's really hard. I can't really play it on this guitar. So,
I'll play something else. There was a wealthy merchant in London, he did dwell. He had a beautiful daughter, the truth do you I'll tell. Oh, the truth do you I'll tell. She had sweethearts aplenty and men of high degree, but only Jack the sailor, her true love there could be. Oh, her true love there could be. She went down to a tailor and dressed in men's array. She hopped aboard a vessel to convey herself away. Oh, to convey herself away. Now Jackie's gonna sailing with trouble on his mind. He left his native country and his darling girl behind. Oh, his darling girl behind.
see what's good in your life. I feel like 2 of those 4 verses was good. And also, forgive me, I know there's like 12 fucking verses to that song, but I'm really good at memorization. I'm an actor, but anyway.
Jackaro, the busking version call it.
Know that life is not an accident. All that we experience, all phenomenon, right, is a divinity expressing itself into a corrupted shadow, right, through harmony and motion, right? That's the only thing that's ever been occurring. This is the philosophy of Platonic forms, right? This is the philosophy of Russellian science, right? Walter Russell, right? Can't stress that enough. He's a very sage, wise man, right? All instances of clairvoyance and psychic phenomenon is the mind of the adept. I prithee do not mock me, fellow student. Tapping into the non-locality of the conscious field, which is an abstract intellectual quality which exists in every cubic centimeter of space, right? Quentin Tarantino is a powerful psychic clairvoyant, and so am I. The 2 of us have the densest braid of clairvoyant connection ever in the history of the condition, right? Right? Since cavemen could only grunt and groan, and they were all psychic. So pray for me, pray for Quentin, right? Pray to bring this to an amicable resolution, right? Right? Every day that we persist in this way, right, I have no choice but to assume that he wants me to die. That's it. There's nothing else, right? I'm moving on as best as I can, right? That I can't control what he does, right? But what I'm saying is that, right, we need to come together and look each other in the eye. I don't want it. He doesn't want it. But there's this thing, right? It's called God, right? that abstract intellectual quality is hovering over all of us, saying, right, if you don't make something beautiful out of this, then you're all lost. And so, right, he's the famous one in this formula, right? He decides when people get close to him, right? Like that's, I get it, got the message, right? But we're talking about it because, right, I'm in perpetual fear for my safety in my life, right? And, right, all he can do is say that I'm insane, right? But again, 130,000 words doesn't emerge out of madness. That's not how literature works, right? All work and no play make Jack a dull boy. Like that's what mad literature is. You get it? I am Jesus, right? Right? So, see what's good in your life, right? Hold those dear to you close, right? Do something good for someone else, right? I want my life to be about helping others, right? Pray for me. Pray for Quentin. Let me know what you think in the comments. God bless.